I've recently met and chatted with a natural builder who has designed an Earthship for cold climates that can be built for a fraction of the price. Now, he built one of these for $1,000, which is amazing and it looks really cool. So here's his video and info on how to build a living bio shelter.
Jamie, thanks for joining me in this collaboration brainstorm about homesteading life. Welcome.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you reaching out. I love what you're doing. I think, our audience really loves it too. So I'm excited to dive in and learn more about it.
Yeah, so Jamie, I came across your site actually from one of my students. They recommended me. They said, oh, I woke up late. I was on a course with Jamie and the off-grid dream. And I'm like, okay, so let's check it out. If my students are on your courses, I want to know from a point like, what's going on in the permaculture field. So, yeah, I just wonder, how did it start in a nutshell?
Yeah, I mean, it really I think for a lot of people, it starts kind of internally or mentally, emotionally, etc., where we just saw a lot of issues in society in general, a lot of things that could be done a lot better, a better way of life. We had, my brother and I both gone through some pretty severe mental health battles, and we didn't feel supported in that by the general healthcare system, as a lot of people don't. We also, I worked corporate for a while, which was super stressful. And, I vowed I just never wanted to do that again and whatnot. And, I've known that I wanted to do it since probably the age of 13, but I didn't have the money to do it. So that was always kind of my mindset. So I was like, okay, what do I do? I started getting jobs. I work, 2, 3 jobs at a time. I would be starting different businesses on the side to try to make enough money to, buy land and be able to create a homestead and the lifestyle that I wanted. So I did that for, wow, probably like 10 to 15 years, just trying to figure that out. And then finally, I just went straight at it. I just said, during COVID, I lost my livelihood. I had to bankrupt my business. I left. I was forced out of my job and whatnot. So I was kind of sitting there. I was in debt because I overextended myself from my previous venture. So yeah, I was just sitting there, didn't know how I was going to pay for my rent or my food the next 2 weeks. And I just said, okay, it's time to just go straight at it. And that's exactly what we did. And funny enough, going straight at it, even though we're starting with no money, was the only way that it ever worked, even though for the past 10, 15 years, I was trying to make it work through all these roundabout ways. So I think there's really something to be said for just moving in the direction that you really want to go. And yeah, so we ended up, we've used a bunch of creative financing methods to be able to pull it off. That we went and we got a mortgage partner who helped put a down payment on the land and co-sign for the mortgage because my credit was wrecked and whatnot. And then we did some crowdfunding. We got overflowed with donations that we never even asked for. People were just super excited to be a part of something like this, which was really amazing. So a lot of that was in like building material. We got a sauna, we got a golf cart, we got a teepee, we got some wall tents and bell tents and stuff for Airbnb stays. We got most of our kitchen appliances. We got lots and lots of support from people in the community, which is really, really amazing. And then from there, once you're into the land, there's so many ways to cash flow it, to generate income on it, just an abundant amount of ways with rural land. So yeah, we started to host retreats and do some Airbnb stuff, and that took off. Within about 7 months. We were doing about $30,000 a month from that, from retreats and events and some Airbnb stuff, and then we reinvested all of that into it to start to build out the permaculture farm and things like that. So we really help with the strategy behind that. So for example, people kind of misallocate their finances and their resources and their time, a lot of the time. So the biggest points to failure tend to be the finances, the financial side, as well as the human factors, which would mean like getting the right people to help you to do it. So a quick example of that is like, even just how to find land that suits people. Is a lot of people don't know how to do that. Or, you know, let's say you have a budget and you want to put up a yurt to you know, to generate some income on the land to pay for the whole build out and whatnot. Well, a yurt costs $30,000 and makes you $200 a night, when you could just buy a bell tent for $3,000 and make $200 a night, the same amount for 1/10 of the price. So it's a lot of that strategy and stuff that we help people to really hone in on what they want, and then help them actually get there and create a plan, and then start executing that plan.
Yeah, wow. I really like that, because back in 2009, I was like, hey, I've had enough of the city. I'm going to go and, you know, do the life on the land. So I bought a piece of land with my ex-wife and my son, and it was beautiful. It was 6.5 hectares next to indigenous forest. Amazing. And I happened to, you know, pay it off in a year, which was really nice. So I had nothing that could stop me in fulfilling this dream of a permaculture training center, school. I had 10 geodesic domes with covers, because I was running an event decor business, and I even brought in Pacific Domes engineer to help me train a tarp company that made the tarps for trailers to make Pacific Dome geodesic covers. And I had the press. Everything was like, I had it all. And I stuffed it up because of these very things that you speak of, because it was like, dig a dam that didn't hold water, then started building a sandbag house, and all these experiments, which I'd like to share my little presentation with you. Maybe, you know, now is a good time. But basically, before I knew it, I was bankrupt. And when you run out of cash, like really run out of cash, then, you know, you run back to the city. So that's what happened to me. And we had a robbery on the land, because South Africa is a very dangerous place. So, you know, yeah. So some of these things weren't considered, because when we thought that we're going to move onto the land, it's going to be heaven on earth, and it's going to solve all our problems. And I'd like to also touch on a little bit of your mental things, because that's what actually gave in for me. I mentally wasn't ready for it, and yeah, but maybe just fly through a little bit. So I'm like an inventor, design various things from food growing machines to flying objects. That's my event business, decorated events for 16 years. Yeah, using spandex. Wow. So that's where the curves came from. Very cool for glamping and you know, events and on the land as well. There's a tenting space on the right. So then, yeah, I started getting into homes. Obviously, learned about Buckminster Fuller. In 2007, went to ferrocement. I'll share with you now. That's on my land. That's the permaculture school. Those are the dome covers, like everything. Wow. I had a boiler that could boil water for 5 showers at the same time in the dome. Went to Cal Earth, learned obviously the super adobe method. Went to ferrocement construction in Mexico. Oh, that's Mike Reynolds, by the way, from Earthship Bio-Architecture. Yeah. And brought it back and started experimenting. So obviously start small with a washing machine, a water tank, a washing machine cover, then a ferrocement seashell roof. So, you know, how do I get these shapes into more permanent? That's my garden on the land, which I learned about sacred geometry cannot be applied, like a mandala garden cannot be applied on a slope, because a slope you have to consider contour lines. So my bottom, so it's concentric circles garden. So the bottom beds caught the water and the top beds diverted the water, so they dried up. You know, I was more into the prepper mindset, digging geodesic spheres underground with dream catchers, so my family could sit, and if the earth started to move, we could, you know, get away, you know, be safe. But yeah, so all this prepper mindset is obviously gone. Nothing happened. Just drawing and building, drawing and building, drawing and building has been my strategy. That's in Johannesburg. Very cool little glamping pod. Acre dome went up in 6 days. So really fast to
Wow.
completion. Yeah,
Yeah,
goes
that's
up
really
fast.
fast.
Yeah, the blocks are 1 by 1 foot. So if you have them made and you have the form works, and the form works are reusable, like for the arches, for the door and the window, then, oh man, it goes up really fast. And then combining it with Super Adobe, ran a couple of workshops throughout the years in
Wow, that's
various parts.
beautiful.
Yeah, various parts of the world, and continue to design. And in my decor business, I prototyped like what would happen if you remove a part of the dome, so to make a geodesic dome, would it stand? And I realized, of course, it wouldn't stand. You need extra support beams. So, and basically now developing a home for cold climate, which is a glorified Earthship. And the main difference is that the heat that the Earthship dumps out into the atmosphere, I want to take some of that heat and channel it into the berm through a set of pipes, which I'll show you, and basically passively pull it out through a solar tube and warming this mass behind the burial behind the home. Yeah. So
Right.
made some models, which obviously taught me that, hey, certain shapes won't work. Models are very cool. Highly recommend if you're any of your subscribers want to like design a home, to actually make a to scale clay model, and to see how it will hold out, and they'll make changes, because I've gone through loads of designs over the years, um, and realizing that eventually, realizing that certain things don't work as they do on a paper in real life, but eventually you get to draw this on the ground, and you start digging, which is really fun. When mosquitoes are biting you, so developing this, yeah, a lot. Developing these tubes that are going to heat. So blow up the plastic. I'm still prototyping. Blow up the plastic chute, attach it to the Super Adobe snake, and put some mesh, and then with a hopper gun, spray it to create my own channels that can take the heat. Obviously, I need to have pipes that can move air. So that's in Brazil a year ago. Developed a sacred geometrical home. They finished it now. So that's basically where I'm going. I'm developing this really cool home that in essence takes the heat from the greenhouse and channels it into the berm underneath the floor here, around the septic, and into the berm. So it's obviously all buried behind. And then the solar tubes, these 2 solar tubes, take it passively out, sucking it out because they're very hot. It's like a torch mirror behind, and polycarbonate in the front, and black 1 foot diameter pipe, 6 meters tall. So creating a bit of suction. But I'm obviously not going to go into too much detail right now. I just want to, that's the home complete, what it would look like. And I'm building a prototype this year. That's one of my previous designs, using vaults. Vaults are very cool because domes are great, but not everybody's ready for domes, because furniture and
Yeah.
not domes are not for everyone, and not for every room in the house. Like maybe artistic space, sure, but an office, maybe not. So what I love about vaults is that they can be poured in a day using this formwork, which I learned at Cal Earth as well. Very cool, removable formwork. Removable and reusable is key here, because we're talking about land development and creating something that can, we can multiply these things. So one formwork, you pour a roof in a day using only one
Wow.
mesh. Yeah. If
That
you
is
saw that
so much
ferrocement
faster than I would have ever expected.
yeah. Once you put the mesh on and the formwork, 2 people can pour this mix, provided you've got a cement mixer, obviously. But yeah, that pours in a day. You have to pour it in a day so you don't have any cracks and stuff. But
So
where I'm
you're
going, sorry?
so you're building these, and I mean, so far the timelines I think are really amazing, and I think a lot of people I think a lot of people look at amazing architecture like this, and natural building, and a common conception is that they take a really long time. So I think that that's really amazing. I'm also curious around the cost on some of these things.
Um, Costs are, it's more labor. That's why I'm moving towards 3D printers, because I want to do, I want to chat to you a little bit about community as well. You know, what are the failures of eco villages and what are the alternatives? But I'm basically want to get into property development where I build walls with a printer and put obviously a beam, like a ferrocement beam, and then sculpt a vaulted roof off that. That's not my home. That's AMT picture from AMT 3D printers here, but they're amazing. It's very similar to Super Adobe. Super Adobe is 30 centimeters by 10 high, and the print head prints 3 centimeters by 1 centimeter. So it's literally 10 times, you know, smaller. But it's the same additive technology. But that's where I'm going, because building with Super Adobe is just so time consuming. But I want to bring in rainbows into the home, because here we're spending a lot of time indoors. Winters are cold. So, you know, I want to bring technology like rainbows, using splitting sunlight. But in essence, combining a Chinese greenhouse, it's actually called the Chinese greenhouse, and an Earthship, or with, you know, yeah, to create this alternative sacred geometrical home. These are some of the projects that I've done already. That's in South Africa. That's a natural filter for the pool, 100,000 liters in a wall, because I had a flooding in my garden. I'll share with you a couple of videos that you can maybe share with your subscribers. But what I'm about is basically using curves. Curves are very, very strong. This river went up 8 meters high, and my wall, you know, no problem. It withstood it because my wall played with the water, because it's same shape as the water. And that's a eco village I've designed for 70 families, which I think is a failure, as pretty as it is. It's 120 hectares, market, Earthship hotel. These are little plots, 1 acre plots. And I'll maybe, you know, if we have the time, then I'll share that after you. But a little stage for like celebrations and festivals and stuff. There's an actual building school with open plots, so students can build, very similar to what you're talking about, just apply. But my dream is really this is not obviously mine, this is Eden project in Cornwall. My dream is to take this into a large scale greenhouses that can provide warmth and sunlight and jungle in wintertime. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's really amazing. I mean, the work you've done is incredible. I really am interested to, get more into the sacred geometry side of things. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious what got you started with all of this? Like, what's like the big driver behind it?
Well, the big driver is the forests that are being mowed down, and I know it's not just for heating needs, so you know, such as firewood, but a lot of it is going into firewood. They're burning the forest to heat homes, and I just think that's ridiculous. If we can heat our homes, use at least 10 times less firewood by using laws of physics, such as, you know, what Earthships do. It's just a challenge to an Earthship is that we have overcast for 2 months of the year, which in towers they don't. And it's really, really cold. So our mean temperature of the ground is like very cold, like just above freezing, maybe +2 Celsius, +3 Celsius. So these are the challenges that I've set myself. So I'm developing a compost heater using Jean Payne's composting method. And the compost is behind. This is the design that I'm working on right now. That's my latest, and this is what I'm going to be building this year. So basically, there's my composter. It's behind the brown thing. It's got a greenhouse. I've got our cultural style that I've decided to add not mentioning the word of what country I'm in because might get blocked. But anyway, so yeah, it's obviously on a tire foundation. Tire foundations are fantastic, especially for cold climates and high water tables and expansive clay soils. It allows the home is relatively heavy, and that's all going to be printed in future. But for now, as a first prototype, I'm doing this obviously with Hyper Adobe. Hyper Adobe got no barbed wire. Super Adobe's got the barbed wire. So very cool windows, and yeah, it's going to have a sauna on the right here.
Oh,
So
wow. Awesome.
yeah, but for your
Beautiful.
application, there are simpler homes, much simpler. Don't need to get so complex. As I said, that acre pod went up in a week, so we could play around with a few designs for your students that if they want to come on board with us and just have maybe a Zoom call, maybe we can have a brainstorming session or something. We could definitely get them going with the design work.
Yeah, for sure. And something I really like about these also is that if someone wanted to start, they could even design their home, but execute it in phases. So I really like to break things up into phases sometimes so they could, build one central room and then they could add on to that in the future as well,
Yeah.
which I think is just an awesome way to start. We really run on like a minimum viable product method. So we often don't know if things are going to work or not, right? So we don't want to go expend all of our time and resources and then, if someone, for example, has a budget and then they spend all of their budget building their personal home instead of building out the rest of the property, this way I think the phases really breaks it down into they get this amazing natural building that a lot of people are really after right now, and they can start small and they can live in it and start the lifestyle that they want while also allocating budget elsewhere to be able to build out the rest of the project. So I think that
Jamie,
I love it. I think
the
it's really
idea
great.
of I love the idea of not blowing all the money onto your personal home. I think once you start with something small and basic for personal home, I love your strategy. And I've burned myself hard because I've started plowing all my money into my home, and then the business wasn't developed, and that's why what led me out of the bankruptcy. Literally bankrupted and ran back. As soon as you bankrupt, you ran back to the city. End of story. If your vegetable garden is not developed and you ran out of money for food, you're going to go and find the money and you're going to get the first job, and we don't want to get there. So I love your strategy. So exactly in my home design, the first room, which is this wooden vault, which I'm going to be sharing with your subscribers, but it's amazing wooden vault, like a yurt, but I've built it for $1,000 on materials. You won't believe it.
Wow.
The glass was so cheap. Oh man, I have to show you a picture of this. But the glass, I went for secondhand glass. So you gotta look at this like your relevant sites that sell secondhand, but it wasn't secondhand, it was actually brand new. So yeah, it was a wooden lattice vault, and I'll have a video with you for you guys. And then this was all made by hand. This was really, I know it looks rough, and obviously all of this foam will be covered, but to this point, this cost me $1,000 in material. It was $100 for the glass, and the door made myself, and it's triple pane glass, triple pane, not like one glass, it's triple pane. So it's 2 air pockets. And yeah, it was really, here is a picture inside. Sorry, it's just taking a little, here we go. Yeah, so that gets built first.
This is
you got to build something first that
wow, look at that. That is
yeah,
so
it's like
cool.
a yurt. So when you said to me $30,000 for a yurt, I'm like, shit, you don't need to spend that. It was C-grade wood, which we shaved off a little bit. It was just a chainsaw, so you don't even need to have any electricity on the land. No electricity we had. It used no water, so you don't need to have water on the land, and you can already get started. Sure, it's submerged. We didn't use an ounce of cement, nothing. It was we used natural stuff for the wooden logs. That those posts that are standing, those posts, they kept the logs from going down. The logs are all dead. We just took what the forest gave us. We didn't kill any trees, which was really cool. We pulled it out. It was a 4x4
wow.
vehicle. Yeah. So like
Yeah, because I mean, even with that, like I mean, we mill all of our own wood on our property, and you know, for people to buy wood, a lot of the time it's actually cheaper to buy or finance like a mill, your own mill, if the property has trees, and then mill it yourself. Because usually in the first go around of building materials, you would have paid off the mill already by going out and
yeah,
buying the lumber,
yeah.
and then you get to keep it forever. You get to keep it for life to continue doing that. So I think that, wow, I love that. I think that's super amazing. And like back to the $30,000 yurt, you could build 30 of what you just showed me.
Through
And
workshop style, through a
they're actually,
workshop.
yeah, through workshops. Yeah, that's it. We actually have training inside of our program on like a full playbook on how we've done that before, on how we've hosted workshops to be able to you know, get help and also to work with experts. So there's kind of two plays to being able to host workshops. One is the labor side, like you mentioned, which helps like reduce cost, and people love it. They really love it. It's
Oh,
great community builders and stuff. It's so amazing, like lifelong friends from every time we host anything. And then on the other side, you also don't need, like, people sometimes think that they need to be like the leader of the workshop because they're, you know, hosting it and whatnot. But we actually haven't done, well, we do now, but for our first 2 years we didn't do that. We actually just like hired somebody to come in who was an expert in their field, like such as yourself, for example. So like we could pay you, you know, a few $1,000s potentially to come out for a weekend and help host a workshop and teach us. So you're actually leading it, and then we use the ticket prices to cover that cost. So then it's a win-win for everybody, and we get to learn directly from an expert such as yourself. So yeah, we help our clients, you know, work with that strategy as well. But you know, I was thinking about this, like it's very like Hobbit home kind of style, and a lot of people really love that style. And we've looked into it, and there's some kits out there that you can buy. One is called Green Magic Homes. I don't know if you're familiar with them. And they're like they look like plastic kind of kits, and
oh
they
yeah, yeah,
come
yeah.
and
They
they
clip
kind
them
of lock
together.
together, and they
Yeah.
build like a round kind of thing. But the prices on those are crazy. So like if you want one of those, it ends up being like 35,000 for their most basic, smallest model, about the same size as what you just showed me. Plus, you need to go, and in order to order the kit, you either need to fly down and pay for a workshop to learn about how to do it all, or you need to hire a contractor to come and build it, which probably would cost you another $30,000.
Yeah.
So I like what I think what you're offering here is super amazing. And right, I like,
Well,
as soon as you showed me that, I want to do that now. I want to do that this year.
well, there'll be a video that I'll send to you from Vimeo that actually shares just a little bit of what this whole training is all about. We actually teach you how to build three methods. The one in Brazil that we build that sacred geometrical hyper adobe home, which has also got a vault, ferro cement vault. So you'll learn the hyper adobe, the vault building with cement, with ferro cement, and with this wooden technique. Yeah, the wooden lattice technique, it is so strong, it can take 10,000 kilograms per square meter, 10 tons of weight per square
Wow.
meter per 3 by 3 foot. So because of the compression strength, and another beauty about wood, which was all C grade, it was rough with the pieces, and it was even had pieces of bark that was shaved off. That's why we got it such a good price. You'd understand it because you milled your own wood. You know, if you know, you don't always get it perfect. The edges got a bit of bark off, and you got to clean that off because the bark obviously rots first. So 2 people, 1 month, and the whole thing is standing as you see it. About 6 hours a day, not
Wow.
even killing yourself, not killing yourself. 2 people, six
So
hours a day, 30 days. Yeah, no weekends, but you'll have it up. You have
wow.
it up. And the other thing, you said
So
Hobbit
really
Home.
20 days.
Yeah.
So really just 20 days of work, 6 hours
And
a day, which if you work 8, that would probably bring it down to 15 days. So you could build where it is in almost 2 weeks with 2 people.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And that we shaved our own trees. We cleaned the trees, the bark off. We got the C grade wood that we had to clean off all the edges and stuff. So it was a lot of cleaning. Obviously, you get the
Yeah.
attachment to a chainsaw, which I bought, which is like a little drum that just pulls all that bark off, which is great. Um, yeah, and another thing is that minus outside, you were mentioning -10, cold, -15, the ground temperature is +5 Celsius. So, you're already 15, 20 degrees warmer than, so you will not freeze. If you ran out of firewood, worst case scenario, because you're in the earth, you will not freeze. The temperature is always positive. Yeah, so that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And how much would you stack on top of it, like stack earth and whatnot on top of it for like insulation factor?
We used a foam, about, I don't know, 1 centimeter foam, half an inch foam with reflector, 2 layers. Comes on a roll, wasn't much, and a foot of earth with a clay lock. The clay lock is the one that, if you don't use it, clay lock is basically clay and straw mixed together, like the slurry putty, and that locks it, and basically doesn't, when you put the grass, because it's all covered by grass, yeah, like a hobbit hole. When you put the grass
Yeah.
turfs, not like this, you put the grass turfs like this. They don't
Right.
slide down because the clay lock, that straw and clay, that just creates, otherwise the waterproofing gets pulled. And the waterproofing is that black stuff with the gas torch that you burn and it melts together. So it's so low tech. And I teach the whole method. I'm actually started the course just recently. So we're welcoming all your students and all your subscribers to come on board, because it's really cool training. We've got so far 80 people, and I send a lesson during the week, edited, completed lesson, and then on the weekend we have a Q&A live Zoom call. So you've got a similar situation. Any questions we answer. So it's all good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I totally plan on being a part of it as well. I love what you're doing, and I totally plan to execute that on our land as well. And I like that model too. People really like that personal support where they're able to come and ask questions and whatnot. So I think that's really great. One question I had was just around like permits and zoning and stuff. I know that like my first thought on that one is like there's usually 100 square foot rule with most zoning, where if it's 100 square foot or less, then there's no permit needed for a structure. And sometimes that's more. So I've seen it in certain zonings and like counties and provinces and whatnot, to be as high as like 400 square feet, sometimes even 5. But most commonly it's around 100. So I know that there's that method, but yeah, I'm curious about any other method that you've used to like get any permits and stuff for this stuff, or if you're just flying under the radar with it.
Well, okay, so it's a very good question, because also most of my students are from America and they have the same issue. So this first of all, 100 square foot, you can do a dream catcher net, make them a little higher, make a dream catcher net. It's like my own strategy, which I showed
So
you
you
in
could
that
climb
sphere.
up the middle and like hang out up
Yeah,
there.
yes. So you
That's
have
awesome.
another 100 square foot, but that doesn't cover as floor space because it's a net. It's a dream catch in the sky. No, full on, really game. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I'm going to try and share it now, for my Telegram channel. We've got a really cool warm group on Telegram. But you'd think the other thing I researched is that the greenhouse has to be a certain distance away. I think it is 9 feet away from the house. So then, we start to think, but then how does the whole Earthship strategy and heating and that whole thing, how does it work? And I've actually developed something for one of my clients. Actually, it was a yurt that he was doing, and the greenhouse was a separate thing altogether. Let me try and find it, because basically you can pull the hot air out of greenhouse, and direct it into this home, which allows you to tap into the warmth that the greenhouse produces insane amount of warmth, but it doesn't have to be right next to it. Obviously, the pipes have to be insulated and so on. But here's a little quick. Let me just hold on. Okay, let me just share. Because this is very cool, because this will give students, you know, your students and your subscribers, you know, belief that this can be done without actually. Can you see this little video, like with the spiral?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what you're seeing is this little standard greenhouse, okay? And I've made another little polycarbonate thing at the bottom. And if you can see, there is these orange pipes that stick out from this bottom end. And they come in and they go into this floor under the earth and they warm up the mass. It's like a clay floor, natural floor. And then there is an oven inside the greenhouse, which also pulls the heat, and that goes into like a cob couch, like a rocket stove type of couch that actually has a pipe. So it's two different systems. So, you know, not to go into details, but just to show you how you can creatively pull the heat from, you know, from a separate building. So another thing I have to mention for the codes, this whole thing is covered by the earth. So when we're looking at how they spot these buildings, and I'm not saying legal or illegal, I'm saying how they spot these buildings is this: it was green pasture land and suddenly something appears and, you know, they can see it. And suddenly there's questions. And if you haven't registered anything, it's like, what is that thing? But because your thing is a hobbit home and it's covered by grass, you literally don't spot, they don't see it. It was a pasture land before and it was a pasture land now. And for somebody to drive out and to go, what's on your land, you know what I mean? You can be very clever about it. So we already discussed, you got a 200 square foot on a 100 square foot of, you know, plot. You've got it completely covered. You've got a greenhouse that they see. They look at that greenhouse. It's just a greenhouse, but that greenhouse is actually pumping heat into a mass. So, you know, heating up your home. So these are some of the strategies that I thought of that we can get around.
Yeah, I have a couple more to add. One thing, back to for one, we actually have an architect that specializes in earthships. So he gets earthships like fully permitted in like our province in North America. So like, I mean, it's definitely doable. It really is. You just need to find somebody specialized in that, and we'll link our clients. I'm happy to, you know, give referrals to your clients as well, for people that are interested in this type of building and want specific permits, because that's what he specializes in. He's super passionate about it. He was an architect for a long time, and he ended up going down and architect and engineer, I believe. And he ended up going down to Mexico and like learning everything about earthships, and then bringing that back here and figured out a way to actually build them to code and get them permitted and whatnot. So that's pretty amazing. So yeah, we can link everybody that. Another cool option is like we talked about before is the 100 square foot rule, turning it, like leaving some height and turning it into 200 square feet, and actually building multiple and having breezeways that connect them. So then you can, you know, if they ever come around, you're just like, well, it's a bunch of 100 square foot dwellings, so then they can't say anything. So
something I can add, Jamie, something I can add for the breezeways. In my stretch fabric days, we worked with this super strong material that's for outdoor nomadic tents. I'm sure you came across in festivals and stuff. It doesn't have as much stretch. That stuff can take 100-mile wind per hour, and you could link structures with that, and it's as good as, you know, obviously, you know, you can't keep it warm in winter, but as like a, you know, snowproof and on all of that wind and rain, it's really cool tenting material. I'd highly recommend it for glamping and your kind of.
And it's classified as a tent structure, so therefore that it's temporary, and therefore you don't need permits for it either in most places. So I think that's a really good option, because you could actually use that to have a fully enclosed large hallway in between each of these units,
Yeah.
and do multiple layers of it to help with like the insulation factor and whatnot too. Yeah, I
Exactly.
think I love that. I think it's
So
amazing.
basically, where we're going with this, if we do have the system that we have to conform to, let's say, we just spoke with you how we can turn a 100-footer into a 200-footer by just having this tight net out of a rope that made as a second floor. So you have 200 square foot warm space to sleep as office. You've got a big window because you remember the arch doesn't can have a whole wall open, so it's all glass. Yeah, like yeah, it's just a little sketch from front view. You know, so you have this whole glass door. That's actually that home. You'd edge this with plywood. But anyway, so you have a nice big table that looks out. I'll send you a video. You can over edit over this footage. But we don't have to have a 500 square foot home that's all warm and all good. Yeah, sure. Part tent, cool. Outdoor kitchen for summer. Why not? Winter time. Hey, you tuck in. You're a bit cozier. You know. Why need to have a 500 square footer all year round? You know, so we got to work with it. I love your idea of composting human manure toilets. Brilliant. Wood shavings, no smell. I've used human manure toilets. I've actually got a video on YouTube about human manure toilets, and I make them with curves. It's all curvy plywood with a jigsaw. Love it. Obviously, I'm going for the nice flushing toilet because people prefer it. Earthship style, but even that we're using big tires, bus tires. I'm sure you've seen it. 5 bus tires, a little ferrocement dome above them. Then you pour a flat slab, and the 4-inch pipe goes straight down. The toilet is right above this whole thing. Also, super. That's what I think resonated with your messages. Is low tech methods to get the economic model flowing. Because once the economic model is flowing, then with that extra income, part you reinvest and part you can finish your home. But we need something that we can move in and have a roof over our head in the coldest of climates.
Yeah, absolutely. And so something that comes to mind there for me is a huge part of our kind of economic drivers is what we call wow factor. And wow factor works to attract anyone. So wow factor could be something man-made, such as, a geodesic dome or any of the amazing natural building stuff that you're offering. It could be a sauna. It could be, whatever. It could also be natural. It could be a mountain with a good view. It could be a river or a creek or whatever it might be. Or it could be something that is like a concept, right? Like it could be like even what you're doing here is a concept. If someone built their property out using all natural building stuff and all of this like sacred geometry, I like that's a concept that people be really attracted to being a part of. So with that, it attracts everything. It attracts guests if you're doing any short-term rentals. It attracts clients if you're doing any retreats or if you're doing any workshops. It attracts volunteers for help with labor. It attracts good team members who just want to be a part of the project. It attracts investors. It attracts all sorts of things. So it is really like, instead of going out and doing a bunch of marketing and whatnot to try to like get people in, the wow factors and the uniqueness of what you're doing naturally attracts aligned people that want to come be a part of what you're doing. And just you set it up once, and then it just runs, and it basically is the heartbeat of your economic generator, of your income for years to come. And it makes everything easier and more fun in the process, because who wants to just build lame stuff.
Well, talking about the wow factor, very important that you mentioned it. For me in my climate, November, December, January, very dark, overcast, heavy dark gray skies. Sun comes up at 10 a.m., 4 o'clock it sets. We're 60 degrees north. So the wow factor for me would be to create a sunny Bali jungle for winter time. and some ice sculptures outside with my stretch fabric, which I can spray with water and make them into ice
Oh,
sculptures,
wow.
which would be like really cool. So yeah, wow factor is very important because, you know, people need something different. People need something alternative. And also one thing I have to mention, because going with the building code regulations, the water becomes a problem. As soon as you start putting plumbing, it's tricky. So some of the strategies that can be applied is some guys obviously hide the plumbing in just below the floor, and when the inspector's gone, you know, crack it open and launch your toilet or wherever if need be. The other thing is wetland in this in the these homes. There's a greenhouse. You can have a shower made just above the wetland, and that's, you know, somewhere is a hidden valve that waterfall, that forever waterfall that's flowing, you know, circulating, and the water goes through the wetland, gets cleaned through a biochar filter, which we teach, and goes back over. So it's a forever shower. And you just have a valve somewhere that just taps into the hot water from your solar geyser or your masonry oven or wherever. And suddenly your waterfall becomes a hot waterfall that you're just standing above the wetland, you're washing yourself. So inspectors like, what do you mean? What shower? It's a freaking water feature. It's constantly going, but you just have a hidden valve that taps in the heat when you need it. So no
Wow.
plumbing. You know how the Earthship wetland is. You know, you can it goes gravel and stuff. So you put a little wooden plate, and the shower goes right, boom, down. And
Well, I love that, and it feels so organic and natural for, you know, a human to do that. I love that. I think that's amazing. And yeah, that's also pretty common practice with just like having, like, doing bare bones, having an inspector come in, they approve it, they leave, and then you add whatever the heck you want, kind of thing. Like, I grew up in construction, and, you know, people do that all the time. They'll build a coach house, or they'll build a suite into their barn or whatever it is, and they'll have them inspect it when it's bare bones, and then they leave, and then they turn the whole thing and do everything else, you know, into a suite. That's, you know, for full living and full kitchen and all the rest. So yeah, that's super common in the kind of construction industry with permitting and everything as well. So yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I
and I
think,
think we should
and
we should actually split our interview and maybe just do a wrap up. But I think we should do a follow up interview as well. I think there's so much to share. I haven't even asked you any of the questions that I wanted to, but I think we should keep it like nice and dense for the people and interesting, and then we can have a repetition. But go for it. What did you want to say?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, going back to like the having like multiple, like couple 100 square foot dwellings that are connected by breezeways and stuff, and coming back to like the seasonality of that. Like, even with like we're having tiny homes built right now, and we are planning on building a large covered outdoor area that we can, you know, put a wood stove in and heat for a couple hours when we're using it in the winter and stuff. So in some seasons, we really want it to be integrated with nature. So in some seasons we'll be more outside, like a lot of the time, and making that space really beautiful. But then in other seasons, like you mentioned, like in winter, we're just going to be kind of retreating and really like living our lifestyle in a way that's in alignment with those seasons, and just cozying up and sitting next to the fire and having more sleep and more downtime, and whatever winter is really calling us to do for our bodies and minds. So yeah, I think it's just really, that's a part of it. That's a part of the experience. It's a part of the lifestyle. That's a part of living in alignment with nature as well.
It's like almost a visual
I
to
like that. Yeah,
expand
like,
in summer. You grow, your house grows. You've got outdoor kitchen, outdoor activities, beautiful, and then you shrink in, and you need much less space to heat. You know, what's the point of building a 500 square footer if it'll be like forever heating this whole space up, trying to get it from -20 to +20?
yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, that sounds good to me. What I think would be cool is we could send this to our audience and then just ask them for any questions that they have.
Yeah.
And then we can come back and talk about all their questions on the next one.